Hello and welcome to Game Spotting. I'm Rich Gallup. Today we travel through time with a pair of GameSpot's wisest editors as we celebrate the 15th anniversary of one of the most endearing mascots of recent memory, Sonic the Hedgehog. From speeding through side-scrollers to fighting and even puzzle games, Sonic and crew have done it all. First, let's take you back to where it all started, the Sega Genesis.
Sonic the Hedgehog debuted in 1991 on the Sega Genesis. Basically, Sega needed a mascot character, something to really sell their system because the Super Nintendo was coming out soon.
Sonic the Hedgehog caught a lot of attention because, it was pretty much Sega's line in the sand. It was direct competition to Mario.
They needed something to give them an identifiable image and a look that people could really latch onto and say, that's Sega.
The smart thing that Sega did was they didn't try and take Mario on sort of in the traditional platforming format that he was known for. What Sega did was they sort of created their own sort of take on the platformer.
So Sega came out with Sonic the Hedgehog, who is their first real mascot character, and he kind of had a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of edge that Mario was lacking, and a lot of people really identified with that.
And they introduced pretty much the key concepts that have been sort of integral to all the Sonic titles.
Sonic was just all about speed.
And the sense of speed in that game was really awesome. He was like a rocket, and the power-ups that you would find in the game kind of were the same idea. You could get shoes to make you go even faster.
Occasionally jump over a pit or something, jump on an enemy. You'd go through these giant roller coaster-like loops.
You had an interactive environment, which these days we all take for granted, but back then it was pretty eye-popping to see.
It was just a quick, visceral thrill. Didn't take a lot of effort. You could just get into it, fly through a few levels, and just have some simple fun.
It was like a combination of a really cool feeling and a feeling of, oh my god, what's going to happen, because you were going so fast. You knew that at some point something was going to hit you and you were going to drop all your rings. And the rings were also another really cool concept, which is if you were good, you could theoretically not die in the game because you needed to hold on to a certain number of rings. And every time you got hit by an enemy, you would drop them. But if you were good, you could hang on to them, you could get through the game. Even if it was only with one ring, you could get through and never die, which was very cool. Sonic 2 kind of continued the trend and built on a lot of the things that really spoke to people in the first game.
You just start at one end of a level and run really fast through to the other end, collecting rings and freeing the little animals.
The sense of speed was back, the graphics got more ornate, and they introduced a sidekick. People either loved or hated him, but as far as sidekicks go, Miles' Tails Prower, which was a little, two-tailed fox who could fly, was, he wasn't too bad. He actually had a little bit of personality.
And what you could do is the second player could kind of control him a little bit. It didn't really affect gameplay all that much, but it just kind of built out the Sonic universe by throwing in more characters.
Sonic was the edgy guy, and Tails was like his nice sidekick. He was basically like a little kid who idolized Sonic and wanted to be just like him, so he would come around and try and help. And he had his own bits of personality because he could fly, but he couldn't fly for very long. He'd get tired. So you'd see him start to fly with his tails spinning, and then he'd sort of get out of breath and get tired and kind of sink to the ground and be mellow. And it was little touches like that that really kind of made that character stand out. And he was a good fit for Sonic.
Basically, though, the gameplay in Sonic 2 was the same, but it's still one of the highlights of the series just because it got everything down really tight, and a lot of Sega Genesis sold with Sonic 2 as the pack-in title. So after Sonic 2 came, of course, Sonic 3, which basically was the same, but it introduced another new character in Knuckles, which was this sort of flying kind of hedgehog pink character that nobody really knew what he was, but he was just another character, and he kind of had a little bit of a bad attitude, which was kind of cool at the time.
Sonic Team started to really have a lot of fun with the character. You started to see them try a lot more kind of outlandish things in the environment that you'd like shoot off of and jump off of. They got a little crazier with the bonus rounds where you'd have to get jewels and stuff. They introduced some 3D stuff actually. It's very simple 3D, mind you. You're just kind of running on a grid, but it kept the series moving forward in terms of its visuals and its gameplay, and it always felt very cutting edge. It was really pushing him as a personality as much as he was kind of like a game experience.